episode numero tres, number 3 of the Cue the Chat podcast. My name is Fionn Lynch, and today we are going to be having a look back over the Scottish Open Qualifiers, which happened during the week. We're going to be looking ahead to the International Championship. We are going to be talking about Luca Brecel and the downfall of the former world champion, and we're also going to be looking at some of the other sports that will be happening this week. So sit back and relax, and welcome to episode 3. So we're going to start today's episode with a question for the listeners. So I've started posting clips of the podcast on Instagram and TikTok, and I was wondering if any of you would be interested in watching a video version of the podcast, because video would be great for the clips, but if nobody wants to watch the video, it's a case of just leaving the clips the way they are, because it's so much extra effort to do the video. But if people would watch the video, it would be great. And then the next question would be, do I just post the video onto YouTube, or would you like to see it on Spotify as well? If you have an opinion on this, if you would like to watch the video, you can comment on Spotify or on YouTube, or you can email it into the show, cuethechat@gmail.com. I should have said at the start, happy Halloween. I'm recording this Thursday night. I've got the NFL on, ready to go. It'll be starting in about 2 or 3 minutes time. It's not going to be a very spooky episode today. I'm not sure if it's going to go out on Friday or Saturday. I'm going to make that executive decision tomorrow. But whatever day you're watching, I hope you're having a great day. So we're going to start by having a look at the Scottish Open Qualifiers. So some of the matches that I picked out were Jamie Jones beating Oliver Lyons 4-3. I picked that one out because Oliver Lyons is having an absolutely unbelievable run of form. So to not qualify for Scotland will be a big disappointment for him. But he did make it to the second round of qualifying. Then the Jimmy White versus Hatem Yassin game. If you were listening to last week's episode, you would have heard me talking about that game and the ramifications if Jimmy White won it, which he did, which meant that he went on to face Jackson Page. Now, I had great expectations for this game. I was expecting 4-3, 4-2 minimum, and I thought it might go the way of the 6-time World Championship finalist, Jimmy White, but it didn't. He lost 4 frames to 1, which, slightly disappointing, because as I said last week, I am a Jimmy White fan, so seeing him lose at any time is disappointing, but especially in a game that, against somebody who's such an open and attacking player, I thought he would have gotten plenty and plenty of chances. I'll be honest, I only watched the first frame, so I don't really know how it went, but you'd think that Jimmy White would have gotten plenty of chances with the player that Jackson Page is. Stan Moody, Tian Peng Fei. Stan Moody, the number 75 in the world, has qualified for Scotland. He beat, as I say, Tian Peng Fei, the world number 54, by 4 frames to 2. Now, Daniel Wells beat Rory Thor 4-0. The result itself, honestly, not extremely surprising, but I just picked it out because in frame 2, Daniel Wells became the 85th player to make 100 career centuries. So just picked that out because that's a great milestone for Daniel Wells. As they say, only 85 players have ever made it to 100 centuries, which you'd think with 3 players on 1,000 centuries, you'd think that there'd be a few more who've made it to 100, but it just shows you what an achievement that is, when only 85 players have made it to 100 centuries, and Daniel Wells has joined that club this week. So congratulations to Daniel Wells. The next match I've picked out is Ma Hai Long against Matthew Stevens. I've picked this one out because that is a great result for Ma Hai Long, the number 77 in the world, beating the number 52 in the world. Because listening back to the podcast last week, I said in my head about 44 times, but in my head, Matthew Stevens is not quite a top 16 player. He's in about the 20s is how I see him. But seeing him down at 52 in the world and losing in Scottish Open qualifying, it's a bit worrying because he's close to dropping off tour. I'm actually going to look up on snooker.org, a great website, where his predicted end of season ranking is. His provisional end of season ranking. If I come down here, he is provisionally. I can search through England. He's not English. He's Welsh. So searching through England would not be helpful. He is Matthew Stevens. Is projected to be number 59 in the world, which just about keeps him on. But a few good results from players beneath him could mean that Matthew Stevens drops off tour at the end of the season. So he'd want to be careful because we don't want to see him drop off tour. The next match that I've picked out is Aaron Hill versus Stuart Carrington. Stuart Carrington, the number 69 in the world, beating Aaron Hill 4-1. As you can probably hear in my voice, I'm Irish. So I just picked out the Aaron Hill game because he's Irish and he's from down the road. And I was rooting for him, but sadly he lost 4-1. Now, Yuan Xijun, he beat Bulchku Reves, who we spoke about last week. This is one of the matches I picked out last week as ones to watch. Bulchku Reves lost that game to Yuan Xijun 4-2. Which, I mean, Yuan Xijun, a great player, so it's never a surprise when he wins. But, again, I'm rooting for Bulchku Reves in that game, if I was watching it, which I wasn't because I took a trip to Dublin that evening. But anyway, regardless, now Julien Leclerc, he beat Jamie Clark 4-3, which is a big win for him. As I said, I'm a big fan of the two young Belgian players, Julien Leclerc and what's his name? Oh, you're taking the piss. What's his name? Ben Mertens. Jesus Christ, I'm a big fan of Julien Leclerc and Ben Mertens. So seeing Julien Leclerc win there, very happy indeed. And I have him in my dock, right underneath. A little bit embarrassing, but hey, Ben Mertens lost in round 2 of qualifying for the Scottish Open 4-2. Now we've looked back at the Scottish Open Qualifiers. It's time to look forward to the International Championship. So the International Championship starts on Sunday, so it's going to be an 8-day event, which we seem to be seeing more and more of in snooker. I mean, we've got the Masters, we've got the Northern Ireland Open, but now we've got the International Championship, which is an 8-day event because both the semi-finals are a day long. They're 2-session matches. So that's the reason for the extra day in Nanjing. It's going to be played in the South New City National Fitness Center in Nanjing in China. So I have a feeling that we're going to be hearing the SNC NFC a lot more than the South New City National Fitness Center. But yeah, the winner will receive £175,000, which I will look up how much that is in euro. Sterling to euro, that is, I've searched 17,000, that makes sense. which is €207,332.12 if they won it today. Which, big chunk of change for 8 days' work. There's been 9 held over matches if I've counted correctly. That's the defending champion Zhang Anda, the world champion Kyron Wilson, the 2 highest ranked Chinese players, 4 wild cards, which brings us up to 8. 2 of the wild cards are Zhao Jinghao and Wang Xinbo, and the other 2 haven't been decided yet, and they've also held over Ronnie O'Sullivan's match, which is completely unsurprising because he doesn't. Am I right in saying that he has some sort of a contract that he has to play in the Chinese events? Although he did miss Wuhan, so I'm not really sure. He definitely has a contract for the Saudi events, but I'm not sure about the Chinese events. But yeah, so the 8 matches that were held over, Zhang Anda, he'll be playing against Ishpreet Singh Chadha. David Grace will be playing against one of the wildcards, as well as Hossein Vafai. Ronnie O'Sullivan, the number 5 in the world, will be playing against Mink Nutcharat. She is the number 106 in the world. That should be a good game. Ronnie, obviously, heavy favourite there, but I always have a look out for the female players because I always think that, they deserve to have eyes on them, to watch them developing, because I feel like, I'm going to put it out there, next 20 years we could have a female world champion. That's one of my hot takes of the day. I'm sure I'll come out with about 40 more that make absolutely no sense. Ali Carter is going to be playing against one of the wild cards, as well as Nopan Sanka. And the world number 2, reigning world champion, reigning Northern Ireland Open champion as of last week, Kyron Wilson, will be playing against Mitchell Mann, the world number 111, the 111 in the world. Xia Hui, the second highest ranked Chinese player, will be playing against Andrew Paget, and Ding Junhui will be playing against Rhian Evans, another cracker of a game, the 12 times women's world champion, against the best player to ever come out of China. That's going to be an absolutely cracking game to watch. Now, all of the matches are going to be best of 11 up until the semi-final, which, as I say, is a 2-day event. The semi-finals get a day each, two sessions. They're going to be best of 17, first to 9, and the final will be best of 19 frames. So it's first to 10 in the finals, be crowned international champion. So we're going to go through the first day of the international championship, which is Sunday. I'm not going to go through the whole first round because that would take an awfully long time. But at 1:30 a.m. Sunday morning, essentially Saturday night, I mean, if you're going to be watching it, you may as well just stay up at that point. Excuse me. So, Hayden Pinney is going to be taking on Lu Hao Chan. Stan Moody is going to be taking on Zhu Se, which could be an absolute cracker of a game. 2 young guns. Ryan Day is going to be taking on Daniel Wormersley an amateur, making it all the way to round number 2, winning in his qualifier. Zhang Anda, as I said earlier on, will be playing against Ishpreet Singh Chadha, I would imagine on table 1, being the defending champion. David Grace is going to be playing one of the wild cards. The wild card that he'll be playing will be drawn, I should think, on Saturday, when all 4 wild cards have been announced. Then Xia Hui will be playing against Andrew Paget, another one of the held over games, and the final held over game in that session, Hossein Vafai against one of the wild cards. Now 6 a.m. It's an early start if any of you are going to get up to watch it, but for the hardcore snooker fans, you can watch Simon Blackwell, an amateur, playing against Matthew Stevens, the number 48 in the world. You can see Zach Shorty taking on Christopher Wakelin. You can see Zhang Jun taking on Amir Sarkosh. I hope that's how you say his name. I'm sorry, Amir, if I got your last name wrong. I'm going to go with Sarkosh. Sarkhosh. And then Ronnie O'Sullivan against Mink Nutcharut. We spoke about that one earlier on. Ali Carter against a wildcard. Napan Sankham against a wildcard. And the reigning champion of the world, Karen Wilson, against Mitchell Mann. Now, a little bit more social for a Sunday morning, 11:30 for the final session of the day. John Higgins will be taking on Ben Wollaston. Pang Junzhu will be taking on Elliot Slesser. Ricky Walden will be taking on Zhao Gudong. That could actually be a cracking game. Big fan of Ricky Walden. Zhao Gudong, an excellent player. Stuart Carrington will beat my fellow countryman Aaron Hill in the Scottish Open Qualifiers. Will be taking on Robbie Williams, but not that one. Dean Young will be taking on the world number 11, Gary Wilson. Mark Selby will be taking on Jamie Clark. And Ding Junhui, a held over match against Rhian Evans. We talked about that one earlier on. That would be an absolute corker of a game. So as far as I'm aware, Discovery Plus have the rights to. It's going to be like the other Chinese events that Discovery Plus have the right to 2 matches a session. I mean, I hope it's more, but I should think it's going to be the same as all the other Chinese events. But it does mean that when you're watching on the channel and not on Discovery Plus, on the main Eurosport channel, that you'll be able to see the ending of the second game, if that's still on, when the feature match ends. So it's better in that sense if you don't have Discovery Plus. But for those of us who have Discovery Plus, it's less matches you can watch. So there are 3 top 16 players who have not made it over to the International Championship. The first one being the runner-up to Karen Wilson in the World Championships last year, Jack Jones. He lost out to Simon Blackwell in the qualifiers. Tom Ford, the runner-up last year, he won't be there this year. He lost to Stan Moody. And Luca Brecel lost to Zhang Jun. Now, we are going to be talking about Luca Brecel now. The downfall of Luca Brecel. You could call it that if you wish. It's what I'm going to call it, because Luca Brecel, since his World Championship win in 2023, really has gone off the boil. I feel like he's not taking snooker very seriously. I mean, he's going on loads of holidays. I've actually taken a few since his World Championship from his Instagram. He's been, since the World Championship, to Italy, to Algarve, to LA, to Canada, to Curacao, to Hawaii, to Mallorca. It says in his bio that he's been to 40 plus countries, and I feel like it seems like you see on his Instagram story once a week that he's in some sort of a new country. I'd say about 30 of them have been in the last year and a half. And I mean, at the start we were like, oh, he's just become world champion, cut him a bit of slack. You know, at the start of the season, after he won the World Championship, he did pretty well. I mean, he made it to the Shanghai Masters final. He didn't quite go very far in the European Masters. He made it to the last 16, which at the time we would have classed as a poor result. But now we would kind of class as a good result for him, because over recent times, he has not been putting the effort into snooker. I mean, take the Northern Ireland Open for an example. After his win in the first round, he flew to Mallorca. Like, snooker is getting in the way of his holidays. Like, he's training for an Ironman in Mallorca. That's why he says he's over there, because that's where a lot of the the professional cyclists live, because it's good for, I assume it's good for like heat training and humidity and all that crack. I'd love to pretend like I know what I'm saying, but I don't even know enough to spoof my way around it. So yeah, that's why he seems to be living in Majorca for the past while. But I mean, when you're a professional snooker player playing a professional sport, traveling around the world during a tournament is absolutely bonkers. The absolute amount of effort that you have to put in off the match table, on the practice table, to make everything click in the match circumstances is so much. And he's not putting the work in. Like, he's not practicing. He said it himself that he's not practicing. He's going off here, there, and everywhere. He's not putting the work in. It's like you turn up to class and you're half asleep, and then you go home and you do no homework, and then you're wondering why you got an F on the test. Like, it's just, he's like, we're gonna have a look at some of his results over since he's become world champion. I mean, one of the stats in here is absolutely baffling. I think we're gonna go through it now. So this is the 2023-24 season. So this is the season after he became world champion. So in the European Masters, he made it to the last 16. A respectable result, but from a top 16 player, you'd have been a little bit disappointed. Shanghai Masters final, great result. Then British Open, first round loss. And this is really where it goes downhill from the third tournament. So English Open last 16, Wuhan Open round 1, International Championship round 2, Champion of Champions round 1, UK Championship round 2, Scottish Open round 3, the Masters round 1, the German Masters round 1, the Welsh Open quarterfinals, respectable, Saudi Arabia Masters, the final, very respectable, and the World Open round 3, and of course losing out in the first match of the World Championships in Sheffield to Dave Gilbert. Now you'll notice there that he did not qualify for any of the Player Series events. There was no Grand Prix listed there. There's no Players Championship listed there. There's no Tour Championship there. He had an absolute stinker of a season last year, after winning the World Championship. But at the end of it, everyone was still saying, oh, well, he was just enjoying himself and he'll go hard at it again next year. Spoiler alert, he hasn't done that. But one of the stats that I just counted it up, that out of the 20 tournaments that last year, that does not include the Championship League, he won 21 matches. Now, how many tournaments have we had this year? Is it 8 or 9? I'm not sure. Kyron Wilson, who's also a first-time world champion in his first season after winning the world championship, has already won 23 matches. He's already won 2 ranking events. I mean, it like that stat was like mind-boggling to me. That in the whole season, Luca Brecel won 21 matches, and Kyron Wilson in November when this goes out, but there hasn't been any matches played, he has won 23 matches. It really shows you how much he's come off the boil, really. So this season then, the Shanghai Masters round 1, Xi'an Grand Prix didn't even bother, he pulled out. Saudi Arabia snooker, whatever, I can't remember the title, the Saudi event, round 1. English Open, he made it to round 3, but it was only his second round because he came in round 2. British Open, last 16, respectable. Wuhan Open, round 1. Northern Ireland Open, round 2. Went home in between matches to Majorca. And International Championship, hasn't qualified. He lost out in the opening round of qualifying. I mean, 7 stats in 7 matches in 7 tournaments. I mean, it's just bonkers. I mean, I can't think of another world champion who's been at risk of dropping off tour once their world championship points from their winning campaign have come off. Like I don't I've never heard of it. I've never seen it. This is this is mental. His professional end of season ranking is 57. I mean, if a couple of good players underneath him have a good run, and he keeps having these poor runs, Luca Brecel, it's not out of the question they could fall off tour. I mean, he'll come if he manages to stay in the world's top 16 before the World Championship, and he plays in there, it should, in theory, keep him safe. As Dave Hendon was saying on his podcast, it should, in theory, keep him safe, because anybody who plays in the Crucible has a tour card for the following year. But I mean, it's just unfathomable. Imagine 2 years after winning the World Championship, you don't qualify for the World Championship. And I mean, let's be real, he could not play for the rest of the season. Then practice his little heart out for 2 or 3 weeks before the World Championship qualifying, get into the Worlds, and then stay in. But like, can you imagine? You go from being world champion to fighting to keep your place on the tour after 2 years. I mean, that's just I just don't understand it, man. I just don't understand how, like, looking at it from the outside, it's like it just looks like he has no drive. He's won the world championship, and now he's just done. It just baffles me, man. Just don't get it, because there's so many people who are not on the tour, who are fighting every single day, putting in hours and hours of practice, going to tournaments on the Q Tour, and then one of the guys who's meant to be at the top of the sport is just sitting around like, oh, well, I'm world champion, sure, I'll just go off to Majorca, I won't practice, and sure, look at, snooker's there, it's just a hobby. Like, it's, you've he's not, in my opinion, achieved enough that he can do what Ronnie O'Sullivan does, which I still don't agree with, what Ronnie O'Sullivan does, where he just picks and chooses what he wants to do. Like, he's nowhere close to being able to achieve that. Okay, so that's that rant over. If you've got any opinions on that, email into the podcast, cuethechat@gmail.com. You can also DM us on Instagram or on TikTok. So we're on social media now, which is great. You can find us at cuethechatpod on TikTok and on Instagram. We might be going on Facebook soon. I'm trying to get the account going, but I don't know. It seems when I was trying to make the account, I was acting like a robot, because we got instantly banned, and we're currently in the process of appealing it with Meta, but we can only hope that it works out. So this segment here, I just kind of want to thank everybody, really, who's listened so far, who's given up their time to listen to the podcast. It means an awful lot. I mean, for a small podcast, one guy talking about a niche subject with absolutely, no big names or anything. You've just chosen to listen to me in your ears, given up your time to listen to me. I just want to thank you. I mean, we've got 25 plays in total. I mean, today alone, we've had 10 plays. 7 on the most recent podcast, 2 on the Northern Ireland Open preview, and 1 on the trailer. I mean, it's just great. I just want to thank everybody who's who has put in that time to listen. It honestly means an awful lot to me that you've put in the effort. We've had we also had a comment on one of the posts as well. Let me find the comment. They were just saying that sending the email to Dave Hennon's podcast worked because we got an email. I'd like to thank Dave actually for reading that out. It's really helped because I think that's where some, if not most of the podcast audience has come from, is Dave's podcast. So I'd like to thank him very much for doing that for me, because yeah, it's really boosted the podcast. Yeah. So now I hope I haven't been too rambly actually this episode, because I've just been talking and then I check in every couple of seconds and I'm just like, what have I just said for 10 minutes? But hopefully it wasn't too rambly. Yeah, so we're just gonna move on to some other sports that are gonna be on over the weekend, this weekend. So we're gonna start off with the NFL. We've plenty of games. There's one game going on right now between Texans and Jets. They are in the first quarter still. That's 0-0 anyway. That's going to be irrelevant for you at the end. Anyway, so Cowboys are at Falcons, Broncos are at Ravens, Dolphins are at Bills, Saints are at Panthers, Ravens are at Bengals, Chargers are at Browns, Commanders are at Giants, Patriots are at Titans. They're all the 6 p.m. kickoffs on Sunday, and then at 9:05, Bears are at Cardinals, and Jaguars are at Eagles. At 9:25, Lions are at the Green Bay Packers, and Rams are at Seahawks. And at 1:20 a.m., the Colts are at the Vikings. And then there's, I don't know what you'd say, is it Tuesday night football? I don't know if it gets a name. Anyway, 1:15 a.m. on or no, it's Monday night football. What am I saying? It's because it's on so late that it's actually on in the morning here. It's Monday night football. Buccaneers are at Chiefs. Chiefs are 7-0 so far. They're doing great this season. I'm a Chiefs fan, so I'm pretty happy with that. There's also Premier League on this week. The early kickoff involves my Premier League team, Arsenal. They're on at 12:30 at Newcastle. That's going to be on TNT Sports for those of you in the UK and Ireland. Then the midday kickoffs, I would assume that if you're in Ireland, the midday kickoff on Premier Sport will be Man City against Bournemouth. That would be my thought anyway. Although they might go with Liverpool against Brighton, because that also looks like a tasty game. But I don't know. I should think it'd be one of the two. They'll probably go for Man City because they're title contenders. And then at 5:30, Wolves are at home to Crystal Palace. That's on Sky Sports. And then Sunday, Spurs are against Aston Villa. Man United are against Chelsea. And we've Monday Night Football as well. Brentford against Fulham. So that's all of the Premier League. The Autumn Nation Series is back, which is great. That's going to be on TNT Sports this year. And if you're in Ireland, all of the Ireland games are going to be on Virgin Media as well, as far as I'm aware. So, yeah, some of these games should be a great watch. I mean, Ireland against the All Blacks next Friday, the 8th of November. It's going to be an absolute screamer of a game. But England are taking on the All Blacks on Saturday, which will also be a great game at 3:00. And Scotland are taking on Fiji as well. And yeah, there's just some great games on that goes on until it goes on for the whole of November. So there are some absolutely cracking games. Like, I'm just gonna have a look through them here. I mean, Scotland against the Springboks, that should be a great game. The world champions. England against the Springboks. France against the All Blacks. Oh, what a game. What date's that on? 16th of November. That's one for the diary. Whew. Yeah, I'm just looking at the Six Nations website. They have all the Autumn Nation series anyway, if you want to have a look for yourself. There's also Formula 1 on this weekend from Sao Paulo, Brazil. This is one of the highlights of the season for me. And it's a sprint weekend, so it should be great. Free practice 1 is on at 2:30 on Friday. Sprint qualifying is on at 6:30. Saturday the sprint's on at 2 and qualifying is on at 6, and then the race is on 5 o'clock on Sunday afternoon. That just about wraps up the podcast, everybody. Thank you very much for listening. As I said earlier on, I hope I haven't been too rambly, because I don't know, I feel like I might have rambled on a little bit too long with the Luca Brecel thing, but I just think that he's taking his foot off the gas, and it comes off as a little bit disrespectful sometimes, but I'm not getting back into it anyway. You can email the podcast, cuethechat@gmail.com. You can DM us on Instagram or TikTok at cuethechatpod. Please get in touch with whether you would listen to if you'd watch a video version of the podcast. And yeah, that's it from us. It's just me. Anyway, enjoy the International Championship. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your life. I love you all if you're listening. And we shall see you next week to preview the International Championship final. I think I'm going to do that every snooker week. Every snooker week, every snooker tournament. I think I'm going to preview the final if I get the chance. So, yeah, that's all from me. We'll see you next week. Adios.